Dosh.
Nope, not that one.
Nope, not that one.
Let's get that one. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, everybody. Indeed, here we are, Studio 5, GGPTV.
And this is take number two because quite clearly we're having technical difficulties this evening. And I'm pleased to announce that we have Jamie with us this evening. Jamie, good evening, sir. Would you like to introduce yourself, please, to the GGPTV community?
Yeah, sure, no problem, Liam. Hello, everyone. My name's Jamie. I am the face behind Magic Trades. Probably look a lot younger than a lot of you thought. I did have a beard, like quite a big one, the other day, but I got rid of it, especially for this occasion, because I didn't want to turn up looking like I was homeless. But yeah, essentially, I'm sure most of you know who I am. I'm kind of a geology student in PhD, doing a PhD at Southampton. And yeah, basically been invested in GGP for a little while now. Love community.
That's grand. That's amazing. Thank you. I'm just being told we've got some sound issues again.
I do testing,
and I'm not quite sure. When we do the testing, it works totally fine. The minute we go live, it all seems to go wrong, which I just guess is the name of the game, really. So I'm going to be making all sorts of changes and stuff. Now, you're are you at university or is university something that's been done in the past?
Now I'm officially 18 months in, according to my little tracker, but I've had about a good 10 months of that essentially robbed because of the pandemic. So I'm not really, I would say I'm more about 8 months in.
That's cool. So what did you study while you was at university?
So I did a geology degree, and it started off as geology with physical geography. So I had a joint honours, and then I got rid of the physical geography part. Essentially, in first year, I was like, I just prefer the geology stuff, so I swapped over to that course, and I upgraded from a 3-year to a 4-year, because you could do that if you hit a certain percentage. And so that's what I did undergrad, and loved it. And so decided to do a PhD for another 4 years.
So still in geology. Is there any particular type? Because let me take this back to my understanding of geology. Back when I was about 11, and as far as I was concerned at that particular time, geology was all about maps. And having been a scout and all that, I knew about maps and I knew about longitude and latitude and all the signs on a map. And I just thought to myself, I really can't be doing studying this, and completely dismissed anything else that's to do with geology. So how did you end up getting into geology?
So it all started really when I studied geography. So when you're in school, you have to pick subjects, and I picked geography as one of them. And for some reason, I was just naturally quite good at it. And that's not me being arrogant. It was just a subject that I just took to, and ended up doing it A-level. And what you end up happening in geography is there's kind of two camps. You've got human geography, which studies like tourism, stuff like that. Then you've got physical geography, which is volcanoes, earthquakes, and that was the stuff I loved. And I thought, well, can you do this actually as a science? Can you do this as a university? Because I loved atom programs. I think we all do. Big fan of, there was a TV show at the time, I think by a guy called Professor Ian Stewart, who is a geologist. Can't remember the name of it, but I loved that. And I thought, well, I could do this as a job. That's easy. And so I found geology as a course online, applied to a bunch of unis, got in to Southampton, and now the rest is history. It's just one of those subjects which I absolutely love. And you are right, there's a lot of maps in it. You end up designing geological maps, which are very different to kind of normal maps, right? They don't just show places and sort of topography, but they show you the rock type, how that's kind of moving, and any sort of major faults and stuff like that. There's a lot of information you can get from it. And yeah, as I said, loved it. And I can probably talk about it for the entire time we're here.
No, that's awesome, because I think what you have done single-handedly, especially from my point of view, is capture an entire audience that probably never even realised they wanted to understand geography. And when you popped up that first video and started talking about mafic dikes and talking about superstructures and talking about all those things that are going on down there in the Pilbara, I was absolutely encapsulated. And I now walk around looking at rock formations in my local town and just like, wow, and I'm looking at the stones on the beach and I'm finding myself looking at lines and patterns and it's absolutely fascinating. It really is. And I'm absolutely gutted that I missed out on 3 years of schooling because I just dismissed geography and geology because I thought it was just about maps, when really volcanoes and all that is so much more of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, well, you've got the geology curse now, because now you're never going to be able to go to a seaside resort without looking at the bloody rocks. So it's a bit like, it's quite funny, because it's a bit like magic tricks, right? If you know how a magic trick's done, the wonder goes. Is that how it's done? But geology's kind of like that. It used to be you'd look at a cliff face, you're like, wow. Now you're like, well, how did that get there? That did this, and then that did that, and then that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's been incredible, really, actually, how the videos went. When I put them out, I was hoping there'd be a small audience that may be interested, but it ended up going way bigger than what I thought it would do. And I'm really pleased to see that, because I think you make a really good point. Like, when it comes to, I've noticed a lot, when it comes to people who essentially invest in mining companies or oil companies, anything to do with geology, not many people actually know anything about the geology. They can't, and I think that's a big problem, because what can happen, and this does happen, is you get companies lie. They put nonsense out in their RNSs, and because you don't know how to interpret what they're saying, you just kind of believe it. Well, that sounds good, you know. So I'm really pleased that yourself and maybe many others have kind of took the information, have kind of started to run with it a little bit. And what's great, I suppose, the luck on top of it is that Greatland Gold itself is not a liar. It's actually producing some fantastic results. It's an absolutely wonderful project, arguably one of the best in Australia at the moment, if not the world. And so, you know, it's just an exciting time to really bring this out and get people engaged, really.
When did you come across Greatland Gold? Let's talk about it as we've.
Yeah. So funnily, I came across it probably in January 2020. So this is right near the start, really, I suppose, of its massive bull run. And it was shown to me by a friend in a student bar. We were chatting about stocks for some reason. I was just about getting started, thinking about putting some money into the stock market at that point. Because luckily with a PhD, I've got a bit on the side that I can use, and I feel like I should use. And I thought, well, okay, I need to start looking. And he just heard me chatting, showed me this stock, showed me a Google graph of Greatland Gold. And I'll be honest, I didn't pay much attention. I said, oh, that looks good. And I didn't really pay much attention. Then lockdown happens, and I was like, right, this is now the time I really should be looking, because everything crashed. I had some spare money, luckily, thanks to my uni, my accommodation letting me out of, well, essentially allowing me to live a bit rent-free for a bit, so there was a lot of spare money. And I just, because of that guy, he said, like, Greatland Gold, I remember that name. So I was like, okay, I'll look it up. And at the time, I think it was about, I want to say 7 or 8 pence, something like that. And I just decided, right, well, I'll do a bit of homework. Did a bit of homework, and then the March results set very near to this time.
Oh, happy birthday!
It was really good. And it was really good. It was I knew it was good because I saw good whips, I saw good grades, and I was like, well, this is why this has gone up. So I should. It's not me.
Absolutely brutal.
It happens. It happens.
I'm actually on
I imagine the Isle of Man is kind of a bit. I don't know how good the internet is there.
Oh, normally it's solid. I've got a satellite internet connection.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And normally absolutely solid, but.
I mean, I remember where we were anyway.
Anyway, we should be. The streaming it says it's on, so maybe I need to just run back to YouTube quickly and click that button.
Yeah.
You are on. It says we are on. We are streaming. We are back on air. You can't see me, but who needs to see me? That's really not a problem. Jamie, if you remember where you are back, please do just continue on, or shall I just ask my next question? In fact, do you know what? I have an icebreaker question that I was going to ask you right at the top of the show before all the technical difficulties. What are you drinking, mate?
What am I drinking?
That's my icebreaker question.
I'm gonna open it now. I'm not drinking any alcohol. I'm drinking a bar cherryade.
There you go, old school. That's proper uni. That's exactly what I'd expect a university student to say. Something like that, or Iron Brew.
Well, I mean, if I was going for alcohol, I mean, which at the moment I'm not drinking a lot of at all. But if I was going for alcohol, because I am a lager guy more than a cider guy.
Okay.
So I probably would have a lager. I'd probably get something like a Heineken.
Right.
I'm a fan of that.
Oh, you dickhead. Well, I'm very sorry about that, everybody. I just cut Jamie off mid-sentence. This is just one of those things that you expect to go smoothly. And because it's not done very often, I do audio. Sorry, Jamie, I just kicked you straight off the call. It's one of those things where I am a podcaster. I do podcasts. I have got hundreds of podcasts behind me. Audio, not a problem. I can start up a conversation and it's all fine. But with this video, quite clearly, it is adding another level of dimension to my head that I just cannot cope with. So there's no practice, there's no rehearsal. These are live, these are as is. And in my head, I have this level of what we're going to be putting out. And I'm dropping further and further and further below that. So that's my fault. I do apologise.
Some things out your control.
Oh, I tell you, all out my control. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, before we do move on, we do have a producer and a production team behind us this evening helping us out. Hopefully, forwarding your questions or talking to us about anything that you have going. Well, any thoughts or questions you have, maybe for Jamie or for myself, or for the results when they come out, which we're expecting in the next 15 to 20 minutes. If they're not out now, that's my 21:24 time miss. Do you have a particular time you like, Jamie, for results?
Not really. I'll be honest, I normally catch them a little bit late.
Okay, fair enough.
Because normally I'm playing PS5.
That's amazing. So going back to your story, you got in at 4-5p, I think you said. When you looked at it from a geology point of view,
I'll go back a little bit, because when I was shown them at 4 and 5p.
Right. Okay.
And well, at that point, I was thinking about putting money into the stock market, but I didn't know what. And it was only when lockdown happened. And to be honest, before lockdown, I had a couple of investments, but they were not like big. They weren't really very big sums, and it was when I was really sort of playing around the year before. So I was serious once lockdown happened, because that was when everything crashed, and I had some spare money. Thanks to the uni, my accommodation basically letting me out kind of a bit rent-free. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I was quite lucky as a student. There were some people who, and still now, in the current lockdown, who are having to pay rent for stuff they're not living in, which is a bit, So, and then I just remembered that my friend showed me this stock called Greatland Gold. I've done some research, and it would happen to be right around when they put out their March results.
Okay.
At the time. And I did what I've come to realise is sort of seen as a bit of a faux pas in investing, which is instead of buying the rumour and selling the news, I bought the news.
Yes! That's the way to do it.
Exactly. And because I saw, I remember sitting there, and I remember seeing, Newcrest put out, it was, because obviously they always release it before Greatland in the morning, and it was hundreds of metres at, I can't remember what gram per ton. I just remember looking at it and going, nah, that's really good. That's really good. I've got to buy this. There's no way that this can't go up. And then I bought the news, and then I think I bought in my first buy was something like 9 pence.
Oh, nice.
And then it went down to 7.5 pence. And I was shitting it. And then, so I bought more because I was like, well, if I wanted to buy it at 9p, why would I not buy it at 7.5p?
Yeah.
So I did that. Sat on my hands, as Paddy would say, and yeah, we're looking pretty good. So, and a lot's happened since then, and and nothing has obviously kind of, well, I mean, apart from Scully, which I'm sure we'll talk about a bit, nothing's really been majorly negative from my end. So, well, I've kept my hold, and it's one of my longest holds, sure.
So when they say 14 for 14, you are 100% with that. Like, if anyone out there's thinking, yeah, there can't really be 14 sets of good results, you're actually there are 14 decent sets of results.
I mean, the ones I've seen, yeah. I have yet to see a poor set of results from Havieron, which, I mean, if you're talking about miners producing consistent good result after good result, like that's not common. You're always going to get somewhere at some point a bad one. Normally,
we've got to find the edge, haven't we? I'm just being told in my ear that the results are out. They are on their way to us now for us to look at them. I'm just preparing my PDF screen.
Nice.
For us to look at. So yeah, that will come very shortly. Oh no, dude, it's absolutely amazing to have you here. I'm really excited. I'm really annoyed that I've missed like 30 minutes of talk time before we could get to these results. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to just straight into what Sandeep has said. I was looking at previous sets of results, and I think the key things to look at will be what Sandeep is saying, and then once we've done it, then we can go through all the holes just bit by bit, and I mean, I might just let you take the lead on that, and just watch you get excited when they 13 grams per ton at 600 meters or whatever it is. I don't want to put words.
We'll see what happens.
So we're just waiting for those to come forward into our inbox now, so we should have those shortly. In the meantime, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? I mean, are you gonna take yourself off down to the Pilbara and set yourself up as Callum's understudy, or?
So the thing with the PhD, I wanted it as a sort of, first of all, it's the top achievement in like education. That's I'd love to turn Jamie something, that'd be great. So going on from that, it opens doors because you can either stay in academia or you can go to industry. I'm very much want to go into industry. I'm kind of already bored of the academic life. So as soon as I get this PhD, I'm off. Attractive, right? And so I could definitely see myself there working on a project there. Equally, I could see myself in an analyst type role, because thanks to the stock market and me kind of putting time into it, I've kind of realised I quite enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I figured if I just had you can have a sort of office-based role where you analyse markets and then possibly get some travel on the side. I have a friend who kind of does that. So I can definitely see myself doing that. The ultimate goal at the end of the day, and it's going to be very hard to achieve this, but as you've all seen, like, I am pretty passionate about geology, and I would love to. I feel like I'm quite good at presenting it. So I would love to do that on TV. I would love to have like a TV sort of show going over some aspect of geology to the public. That would be incredible. But to get there is very difficult. But getting a PhD certainly helps. I do not. So I can find them.
Hello. See, I'm waffling away. yeah, I've changed scenes, and because I changed scenes, I managed to change my audio. But I believe I'm back now, so hopefully that's okay. Sandwich.
So we want the March 21 interim exploration update.
We do indeed. Shall I read this to you while we're here? Because this is
yeah,
what
I'll put it now on my tab.
Sandy Biswas said, "We are excited to announce the discovery of the East Ridge." I think it's about Red Chris. Is this? That's Red Chris. We don't want Red Chris. They've actually put Red Chris first. That's very unusual. Javier on. That threw me, actually, the fact that they put Red Chris first. Page 4. Here we go. I don't see anything from Sandeep. Does the producer have anything from Sandeep? We were expecting to find something from Sandeep, but I'm not seeing it. Anyway, since 2019, it's outlined an oval shape with variable brecciation. Nope. Okay, good. Alteration and sulfide mineralization with dimensions 650 by 350 meters, trending in a northwest orientation. Breccia mineralization has been identified internally and externally to the crescent zone, including targets which remain open to the east, northwest, and southeast. Mineralization has been observed to over 1,000 meters in vertical extent below the post-mineralization cover sequence and remains open at depth. I like the sound of that. 43 holes saw 26 holes completed during the reported period, remembering that we had Christmas and a few cyclones, within the inferred mineral resource boundary. Jamie's camera has just completely shrunk to something where no one can even see you anymore. I'll leave that for now. Assay results have now been received for all holes. The results are in line with expectations and increase the confidence in the continuity of higher grade mineralization. Results for the reporting period include, and I'll go over to you to had 112, if that's okay.
Yeah, so sure. I'm just looking at them now. So we've got, what's that? Nearly 200 meters at over 1 gram per ton, nearly 2 gram per ton gold from 545. So that's the shallower mineralization we have, because normally a lot of the groove underneath, beyond 1,000 meters. So we're intersecting that shallow sort of ore zone again. Then we get nearly 90 meters at over 2 gram per ton. That's from about 800 meters. That's pretty good. What else have we got? See, we're getting higher grade intercept, like the 33 meters at 6 gram per ton. Like that's a juicy.
Say that again, just so I can enjoy.
What's that?
So, just say that again for me. What was that?
Oh, I just said that the 33.7 meters at 6 gram per ton is a juicy intercept.
Love it.
And then you also get the 33.8. And what I like here is that all of these ones are quite shallow. Like, well, in shallow in comparison to because we've had intercepts that are, below a kilometer. So this is the stuff which, ultimately you're going to truck out first. What else have we got? See, whenever you see 100 meter plus intercepts over 1 gram per ton gold, like that you just have to take notice of that. That is extremely, what you want is width, grade, and obviously if possible shallow. And well, I would argue that we're still reasonably deep, and we know that we've got a pretty deep deposit. And that's well known, but we certainly have width and we certainly have grade, which is really what you want to see. And this is the thing, right? When you're investing in gold companies and even in any other sort of minor company, this is the sort of stuff that just gives you confidence that there is actually an economic ore body there.
I'm just being told in my ear, Jamie.
Because
sorry.
What you don't...
we need to slip down to had 130.
Yeah. So we've got 109 basically 6 gram per ton gold. I mean, that's a joke. It's just the thing is, like, you have to I've been saying all along, right? I was just about to get onto this. When you see grades like this, like when they say it just increases confidence, it really does, because there's so many gold companies out there. They'll report good grades. They'll report things like they may report something like stupid, like 20 gram per ton. But then you see the width, and it'll say 2 meters, and it's a lovely intercept, but what you don't have is tonnage, and that's really what the big boys want. You want tonnage, otherwise they're not going to mine it out. So these results are fantastic. I fully expected this, though. I didn't expect these to be bad. You're drilling in the same spots, and you're infill drilling within the same zone that's been producing consistent high quality results. So it'd be very good quality results from that.
Absolutely. What are we? Obviously, on the tip of everyone's tongue at the moment is the new boy on the block, which isn't. It's been here around for millions of years, but quite new to us in terms of the price, and it's becoming quite fashionable. Is copper? What's the copper looking like? Is that a tasty feature?
I'm not really familiar with like copper grades too well, to be honest. At least in this deposit, but it's it's more than. I think it's got a decent credit. It's obviously not the major element of interest here. For example, in other sort of more copper-rich deposits, you may expect upwards of 1%. So sedimentary copper deposits, stuff I study, you're getting more than 1%, but that's the dominant metal, right? So you expect that to be the major thing you're after. But then we've still got, for example, in HAD 127.
I just saw that.
79.3, 1.4% copper. We've got other ones at 1.3%. So the fact we're getting as well, that
okay.
So when we talk about like making mineral resource estimates and whether it's going to be economic, this because they convert everything into gold ounces equivalent. So this is going to up the copper does add extra on top, and what's nice as well is that the copper price I think is still around 10-year highs. I think it's pretty high at the moment, copper, and it's expected to increase. Some people, I think, might look at the copper a bit more with favour than the gold sometimes, because copper, I think, is a metal which is getting increasing attention due to its applicability in the electric vehicle market.
Yes, so, no, very much so. It's I think the Chinese are going all in on it at the moment, aren't they, with their electric vehicle that they've just announced, and obviously what with Tesla. And I mean, I don't know too much about it myself, so I'd be lying if I sort of tried to make it out like I did. But I'm using the term fashionable. It's not. I mean, people have used copper for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, haven't they? But I think it's being thrust back into the spotlight, and while everyone's mucking around with silver and GameStop and stuff like that, copper is just very quietly just snuck up, and like $9,000, was it $9,000 or something crazy like that?
Yeah, it's.
Sorry about the sound. I've just sorted that out. Hopefully.
Yeah, this is the thing. I think there's no doubt, and most analysts and even academics agree that copper is probably the sort of the leading metal for the sort of green revolution, if you like. We are going to need absolutely thousands of tons of it, possibly millions of tons, right? So, and I think I'm in my PhD thesis at the minute. I've got a diagram that basically shows that with the current demand, we don't have enough reserves to meet that demand by the year 2050. So it's really important that we find more deposits that obviously have high copper content in terms of tons. Now, I would say that this deposit type is not known for its copper. It's not like a major copper resource. Really, if you're chasing copper, you're chasing porphyries, because that's stuff that normally has anywhere from, say, the 0.8 to probably well over 2% copper in grade, but you have hundreds of meters of it, so that's where you get your tonnage. But in our case, it's really nice that we get the extra. We're getting 1% copper intercepts. That's a really nice credit on top. So I'm really pleased to see that.
Which just helps, doesn't it? I've just scrolled down a little bit to the. Hopefully the viewers can see it as well. But I've just scroll down to the second diagram that we've got. I think they've made it bigger, Jamie. I think we've got some more dotted area. That crescent northwest closure has accidentally slipped outside of the high-grade sulfate zone, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't remember what the previous diagram looked like.
Let me find you another one.
Because this diagram is really key, because for most, I think it's worth remembering that the mineral resource estimate is much exclusively the southeast crescent, and then the bit of the northern breccia. We haven't touched the eastern breccia. We haven't really touched the northwest crescent. You've still got all of that info to go put into the full resource estimate, right? So I fully expect over the year for there to be an update of some kind to that estimate. And I think there's been chat about this before on LSE, but normally mineral resource estimates, in my experience, from what I've seen, increase. They don't decrease, because normally you're conservative. No, exactly. When you make the initial mineral resource estimate, it's normally done with a conservative mindset, right? So, and I cannot. I think for me, like when it comes to like how long I'm going to be investing for, well, I'm certainly in it at least until the pre-feasibility study. Pre-feasibility studies are huge events, because these are the things which essentially tell you whether or not it's going to be economic or not, and that news is like confirmation for many of like the big boys, because I would say exploration and in general mining is considered quite a risky investment by the city.
Yeah.
And what they want to know is it definitely there, and is it going to be economic? Is it going to make me money? Well, until you produce like a pre-feasibility study or a definitive feasibility study as well, you aren't going to get that investment necessarily. So once you have that in the bag, which is what Newcrest are working towards, obviously, and I think with these grades and what Paddy's satellite images, and also sort of sentiment that comes out of Newcrest, at this moment in time, it seems quite unlikely that this is uneconomic. This is why when people say that this project is de-risked, that's not nonsense. Like, I would say that this part of Greatland Gold is very de-risked, which is very, very rare in an exploration company that you have something that is this de-risked, in my opinion. So this is why I'm not really too worried about the current share price too much.
I totally understand. Can we talk about what you see? I'm just comparing the two diagrams. They've actually taken some of the yellow area off of the previous diagram. People will actually need to see them side by side to compare them. The black, when you look at the crescent northwest closure, the stuff on the outside was already there. The yellow zone, if you're following along, now actually this is all new. This wasn't in the last diagram. This wasn't all here. It was closed off in this zone here. This area, the area to the southeast, inside the crescent, has disappeared. That's got smaller. Then there was a red blob that's also disappeared, which was next to the mafic dike? No, the dolerite. Post-mineral dolerite.
Yeah, the dolerite.
You might have to explain that. What is dolerite? I know dolerite from Minecraft. That's as good as my dolerite experience goes.
It's a medium-grained intermediate rock, essentially.
Okay.
It's more on the mafic end, because I don't know if you know your two names. You've got mafic and felsic. So
I've heard you talk about.
Mafic is magnesium and iron rich. These are, right. So you've got to think along the lines of basalt, and then felsic is really, really kind of silica-rich rocks.
Right.
So
okay.
Really, what we're talking about here. So mafic is where you get around about the chemistry is around about anywhere from 45 to 55% SiO2. Once you get above 60, even 70%, you get in felsic. So dolerite sits kind of at the intermediate. It's kind of about 55 to 58-ish%, something like that. Usually it's medium grained, so it means that it's cooled reasonably slowly. So you'll find reasonably coarse grained crystals when you get the rock, but most of the minerals are considered mafic because they're iron and magnesium rich.
Okay. How comes we've got it running through the middle of our tenement? What would have caused... Because that runs off into Apollo, doesn't it? And maybe even off to... not Goliath, the one that's a little bit further south. But basically, the Black Hills tenement.
Yeah, so this is...
Patterson Range East.
And I think even in some of the other exploration companies, so Artemis, etc., have shown on their diagrams that there are actually more than one of these, I think. So this dike is cross-cutting. It's younger than the deposit. It's an event that's occurred after this ore-forming event has happened, by the looks of it. And usually when you get an intrusion, so this is obviously formed from a magmatic body, and they will follow planes of weakness such as faults or fractures. But ultimately, if you've had an intrusion, so you've had some form of magma come up, and essentially it penetrates through the rocks that are already pre-existing. And as I said, normally they form in predefined planes of weakness, or during if you've had some form of extension. So your plate tectonics, your stress field has caused some extension. You've got a magmatic event; it will go through. So quite often, what you get swarms. So dike swarms are where you have loads and loads of dikes, and normally they form a kind of preferred orientation due to the regional stress field. So this is essentially, when I first saw this, without the information we have now, because they didn't even call it a dolerite dike before, they just called it mafic dike. I remember in my first presentation, I had some questions about like whether or not this can help to some of the metal, or if it maybe is bringing in some of the metal. Well, from the information, it looks like this is completely unrelated to the ore events. It's cross-cutting at a much younger age. Probably related, if I'm being honest, if I had to guess, it's probably related to the Patterson origin, which is the younger mountain building episode than the one that I think and looks like is forming this, which is the Miles orogeny. So, okay. Yeah. Hopefully that's makes sense.
It's fascinating. Honestly, it is absolutely fascinating. And I've got about 17 different views of the same plan on. So let's can we while we're here, we might as well drain the information from you. We get presented with these maps. You know, we've had 14 of them now, and we see the dolerite, and we see the yellow zone, which is the 0.5 gram per ton gold LF shell slice. How does that happen? How do we end up with a shelf slice? Like, is there a simple way you could explain that to the audience?
Is this on the leapfrog images? So the ones where they show like the different grades?
Yes, with all the...
is that leapfrog? If I scroll down... Yeah,
yes, I think it is.
Leapfrog.
Oh, I've had a note come through from a few people, so we should read those out in a moment.
I'm just trying to see... Is this on the same March 2021 exploration?
Yeah. Is this the one looks like Picasso. A Picasso drawing
which
of a
page
face.
Is it?
I'm on page 6, 7. I don't know. I've got it. Oh gosh, no, that's torn it. Everyone can now see all the geology spill because I've zoomed too far in. Don't you just love live TV? Ooh.
So you're on the same image, that yellow. See on so that's the breccia. That's the lower grade breccia, isn't it?
I just found a new image that's very nice. Sorry.
Yeah, because there's some that are further down. I just noticed. I was scrolling down.
I just found. Should we talk about figure number 9? Because I've never seen figure number 9 before. That's a new one.
Figure 9. Is that on page 14? Let me have a look. Yeah, figure 7, figure 8, figure 9. Let's have a look at figure 9. Okay, I see what they're doing.
I mean, this could be red Chris, but I don't think it is it? That looks like Javieron.
Is there any clues?
No, do you know what? That is red Chris.
No,
it says
it is red Chris because he's got
schematic cross section of RC675. So that's not even Javieron. No wonder I've not even looked at it before. They've completely fluffed this around, haven't they? They've completely confused us.
If you skip down page 22, we start to get the original plan section of Javieron. So I think they clearly, for once, they've reversed things around. They've gone red Chris first, then Javieron. So they must have done something significant at Redcrest. I don't follow what Newcrest do except for us. So.
My message board here from the producer is flashing up copper. There are some people out there in the wider audience that are absolutely excited, including our man Stuart, that is absolutely giddy about the copper.
Yeah, the copper
Stuart says, actually, this is just come through as has been forwarded into us. Copper is the reflation trade. It will continue to lead the commodity super cycle. Even if Bitcoin steals a bit, excuse the pun, of gold thunder, copper is the industrial metal that has led all recoveries throughout history. There's grades of 2.6% and it's shallow. 79.3 meters at 4.5 grams per ton and 1.4 copper, including 41.7 meters at 8.4 grams per ton and 2.6%.
Yeah, that's insane. You can't deny, like, it doesn't matter who comes on the LSE board and wants to deramp, you cannot make shit up. Because that's in black and white. That's in black and white. How are you going to spin that one?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We can't hide 8.4 grams per ton. Yeah, if anyone comes on and starts questioning you and makes you think about whether or not you want to be in this share or not, just look at that line there: 8.4 grams per ton gold and 2.6% copper.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just scrolling down to some of these. Because you asked about the yellow zone, didn't you? You said,
yes, yeah.
So yeah, what's happening to me at least with these systems, right? The 0.5 is the low grade breccia. So to me, when I was doing my presentations, I was trying to work out the sort of sequence of events, like what's going on. And it is quite complicated, and obviously without being at the site, I only can speculate. But these breccias are forming after so you have your hydro coming in, and it's going to be depositing I think it's depositing the high grade material first. And
stupid beginner question. This isn't lava, is it? This is so much more than just lava coming out the ground, right?
No, so these will be the fluids that spawn off of the lava or the magma. So essentially what you have is like this big boy granitic intrusion, which the only real evidence we have properly, well, in fact, we actually have two pieces of evidence for this now, I think. But there's the major one is the seismic image for a underlying granite on their seismic section, which I don't think has been intersected on any drilling, because we know there's loads of granites around. Like, you only need to look at the geological map, and the granites are outcropping, sort of dotted about the Patterson. And this is what is thought to be the source of the hydrothermal fluid. So when it came in, which would have been around the Miles orogeny, you form your granite. As it starts to cool, it's going to start to basically exsolve fluids, and these fluids are going to be boiling hot. I don't know if you've ever, when you cook, you and then you instantly run it under a tap, and it like really just go like that, and it's like,
yes,
but like it's like that, but obviously way higher temperature. Especially if it's like a salty fluid, it's got lots of ions in it, like sodium and things like that. That enables you to basically take metals out of, first of all, any surrounding sediments that may have metals in it, but also it's going to bring with it any metals that were contained in the magma itself. There's a bit of a competing hypothesis that the granite is contributing the metals to this ore system. But either way, you take your metals out, they're in the fluid, they will travel up, and they will begin reacting with the wall rock. Now, I think the reason why the Punta Punta is the host rock is because it's carbonate rich. So you have dolomite. So dolomite is a calcium magnesium carbonate. It's very similar. Like, essentially, calcite's just your general carbonate, CaCO3. You add a bit of magnesium in, you get dolomite. But this is, either way, no matter which carbonate it is, it's going to be very reactive. So you're going to start to react that rock with these hydrothermal fluids. And when you do that, you're going to be changing the chemistry, and you're going to end up essentially depositing your metals in the pore spaces and in any fracture networks, etc., etc. But because what you're going to be doing, you're going to be dissolving away the carbonate, you're essentially going to be generating breccias.
Right.
Because if you imagine like you take, I don't know how to explain this in the best way, but obviously if you take like any sort of solid and then you like sort of destroy like good bits of chunk, it's just going to crumble. That's basically what a breccia is. It's like it's going to crumble. So if you have all this carbonate in it and you're dissolving a lot of it, you're going to essentially collapse it in on itself, which is where I think the breccias come in.
Right.
So what I think happens, obviously this is just my own like hypothesis. I cannot really confirm this, but the core kind of shows this a little bit in some of the old sort of presentations. You deposit your sulfide-rich material first, which is the crescent, and then in the same sort of event, but a little bit later, you're collapsing, forming breccias, which then essentially will be mineralized just with a lower grade. Which is why I think the breccia is lower grade, and then you have the sort of the crescent zone will be sulfide rich, and this, I think from what I've seen in the past reports, these are contained within like quartz veins, so a bit like telfer. So telfers, the minerals are in, or the ore is hosted within what they call reef structures, which are just sort of giant quartz rich veins with the sulfide in it.
Okay.
But they kind of occur kind of in parallel sets. So I feel like that's what's happening here. And the breccia is kind of an after thing that gets with the rest of the minerals. And they've provided quite a bit of information. Where we have two different types of breccia. I think we have.
They've got cemented and crackle on the legend.
Yeah. So the crackle. I think in one of the presentations I've got an explanation to help determine the difference between that, because I remember sort of looking at those terms and thinking, well, what does that kind of mean? Because geology likes to do this thing where like things to the normal public which seem the same thing, we just like to create extra words for, and it can be quite annoying. So where are we with the, here we go. So a crackle breccia, you have really large clasts, so you have like chunks that are greater than 2 millimeters in size within a finer grained kind of matrix, right? And then you go down a level, so you go down into more smaller clasts and more sort of matrix. That's when you get your cemented breccias. That's what the difference is. It's just the proportion of how many clasts there are versus how much cement there is. So that's the only real difference. And I think from what they've reported, they've got calcite cemented breccias, which makes sense. Like if you can dissolve your carbonate and reprecipitate it in the breccia to form the cement. But what was weird, they have actinolite cemented breccias. Actinolite is, for those who are probably working in the industry, actinolite, it has a polymorph called tremolite, which is an asbestos mineral. So actinolite is a green amphibole. It's usually associated with metamorphic rocks, which is what these are. A lot of these are metamorphic sediments, and a lot of these have been metamorphosed to what's called green schist grade. And green schist is kind of like, it's a very common metamorphic grade of rock. It's kind of like temperature is around about, I want to say anywhere from 300 to 450 degrees centigrade you need, and then pressures kind of 2 to 3 megapascals, something like that.
Wow, this is my mind just exploded at that point. Megapascals.
Yeah, this is the pressure you need to convert what is originally going to be a sediment or an igneous rock into a metamorphic rock. And what we do in metamorphism is we recrystallize either pre-existing minerals into essentially the same thing, or what we do is we create new minerals. And actinolite, it ends up forming in green schist environments. So it seems as if this breccia is kind of forming, like I said, and this is maybe some tentative evidence that if you're getting actinolite cemented breccias, that is forming during quite a high degree of pressure or temperature. So I think this is definitely related to either the underlying pluton, the igneous intrusion, or if it's not that, it's going to be related to regional metamorphism, so the compression event during the orogeny. So
sorry, I'm just gonna jump back in there. Because obviously this is all coming from underneath, isn't it, and pushing up.
Yeah.
Does that mean that are we going to find more the deeper we go? That's probably the question. The deeper we go, are we going to find more?
Oh yeah, this is the big question, isn't it? Because I think so. I don't know if you. I'll go through the stratigraphic sequence. Right, we're in. It's called the Unina supergroup.
There are a few more images actually a little bit further down. I don't know if they help you at all.
Yeah, they might.
Figure 11 through 13 or 14, even 15.
Yeah, so I was on figure 10, wasn't I? So to me, the bulk of this, basically what we're in what's called the Punta Punta formation. Now that in turn is within the wider Unina supergroup. But below the Punta Punta is the Malu formation.
Yes, right? I've heard you talk about
that before.
The
Malu formation is what hosts Telfer. So, I mean,
okay.
If you just go off of that,
list back my tea then. Yeah,
it's perspective, because if you've got mineralization in at Telfer in that host rock, and I can't remember the exact. When you look it up, it's not quite the same as Punta Punta. It seems less carbonate rich, but I'm pretty sure I have seen it reported that there is definitely carbonate in it. But either way, like, the fact you're 1 unit up and then you go down, you've got the Malu, which is a host rock to the major ore deposit in the area. You would hope that gives you at least some degree of confidence. You would expect to find something,
because the producers just said we are still open at depth.
This is the thing. So I think the more you go down, there's two competing things. You've got, if we assume there is, what you're going for is you're going for the Malu formation. You're getting closer. You're supposed to be getting closer to where the intrusion is, right? If you have an intrusion at depth, and depending on where this breccia and system sits with relation to that intrusion, we might not be directly on top of the intrusion. We might just be a bit off. But the closer you get down, you would probably expect to find a greater degree of. You might find different mineralization. You might find a bit more. So the elements may change, but either way, you would expect some mineralization certainly close to the intrusion. The competing factor, though, is that if you are basically, if you're buried at depth and you're buried underneath a lot, quite thick sediments and the like, you're going to close up pore space, and you need pore space to basically form your minerals unless you have veins. So it's a tough one to answer. But I am cautiously optimistic, because I don't know what the thickness of the Punta Punta is, but I have seen it online as being, kind of thicker than butter. So depending where that,
and we've been down to 1,800 meters, haven't we? I think is the deepest I've seen on the documentation. I'm just going to see if I can find the drill results now and see how deep they've gone. Sorry if you are watching the screen and I am zipping it through. See, these seem to be quite shallow drill results compared to the ones we had before Christmas that were down to 1,500 to 1,800 meters. These all seem to be, I mean, when you look at the diagrams, you can see that they're all in that top 500 or 600 meters, which I suppose they've got to go through down. I think 800. There's an 800 meter one there. On HAD 123. Sorry, just including between 821.5 and 832.3, 10.8 meters at 3.7 grams per ton. That's a shame. Jerry Spaniel is also excited to see the amount of copper. He says there's a lot of copper down there. And Magic Trades is the Brian Cox of geology. Great guest, have so much knowledge, even if I am struggling to keep up.
Sorry if I do speak really quick. Like, there's a lot of information, but no, I mean, with the depth thing, I am cautiously optimistic, because when I say about my argument against the pore space closing up is that, well, if the thing with the this cover is that it's quite a bit younger than the actual host rocks down here. So there's no reason why you couldn't have had pore space down here that was infield and it's been, mineralized for millions of years, and then you put the cover on top. Then it doesn't matter. That's how I see it. So to me, I think I would love to know where. I mean, you're never going to get this information, but I'd love to see the core where they pick out right where we start Punta here, we end here, and then the start of the Malu is here, and they're going to maybe get some results out of the Malu, because that would be really quite interesting if they were to get more results that were exceeding 2 kilometers in depth. But I must admit, my knowledge of kind of drill hole depth extent is a bit limited. I don't know how far they can actually go, but the deeper the better.
But then this is where opening it up and going down there is going to help, isn't it? Because once they get underneath the 400 meters of cover and start to spread out, they can actually then take drills and start digging deeper if they need to, because they haven't got that 400 meters of Permian or Permian cover.
Yeah, Permian cover. It's Permian. Let me get this right. It's like 300 million years old. Permian. Permian era is 299 to 251. This era was responsible for the largest mass extinction the world's ever seen. So you often
could we assume then, and I'm just going to sort of really simplify this down, that there was a massive volcanic event or a meteor's hit or something like that, and it's just basically covered the Earth or covered parts of the Earth in this new
the
dust
Permian
that's settled and compacted.
The reason why you get a lot, it depends on I don't know the exact stratigraphy, so there may be some different environments, but normally when geologists think of the Permian, it's extremely dry, like a lot of desert. In fact, you can see some of the Permian rocks down on the south coast of England, around the Jurassic coast. If you keep going, you enter these thick red sandstones, and that is obviously an aeolian environment. That's a desert environment. This is kind of what these rocks are, and when you build up that for millions of years, you're going to get quite a thick sequence. And I think Australia, where it's sat during the Permian, hasn't changed a great deal, really, in terms of the tectonic history. So that's why you don't get much on top of that. But my knowledge on that is a little bit sketchy, so I don't know. But either way, the point is that. Yeah, you are right. Like, for example, around Scally, when you go that direction, you get much. You don't get as thick.
No.
There's, and I think the reason behind. So there's an interpreted fault, isn't there? There's the Havieron thrust. So when you get a thrust fault, you're going to thicken certain parts of the stratigraphy. It's basically going to go over the top, like that. So I think that may be the reason why you get thicker sedimentary. Cover around Havieron as opposed to Scally and that direction. But yeah, the less. Go on.
No, it's just that I've just been sent a photograph of myself listening with the comment, a normal person listening to a geologist. I'm really intent, and people are mocking me. Now, I would like to know, looking at everybody that still is watching, I don't know how many of you are, but thank you if you're still here. Have you got a question for Jamie while you're here? Is there something that Jamie can answer for you related to what we've got going on here today? Do you have a question about the results? Is there something you don't quite understand that you need us to explain to you? Let us know. We've got a little bit of time left before we have to drop off. We don't have to drop off air, but we might as well drop off air. So yeah, if you've got any questions, please let us know. Also, no, we'll do that next time, I think. We'll find out where people are from next time around. So, with that in mind, James would like to know how deep is deep. I think we've almost covered that, in as much as we know we've gone down to 1,800 metres, but we're not quite sure how much further we can go. And obviously, if 1,800 is their limit, once they go down to 400 metres, through the 400 metres, that's going to open us up for another 400. But I'm pretty sure these drills can go down to 3.5 kilometres.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, but if that is true, then they've obviously got a fair way to go. So that would be really nice if they could just put one. They've got the money to do it as well.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. That's another thing we haven't really touched upon with these miners, right? We're fully funded. We've got fully funded for this. We're fully funded for the jury joint venture. And we've got plenty of money in the bag. I think they reported 5.9 million cash just recently from December. and that's all for that. Pretty much is exclusively for Scally and the other projects. So yeah, another factor.
While you're here, I might as well ask you, hit the microphone. What do you make of Scally? Obviously, the market has absolutely wet itself over the fact that we've had 3 holes, and
I don't know if you watched my stream on that. I was I did a live on
exactly
that one
because there is mineralization. There are signs, and it says it in black and white, almost the first sentence. There are signs of mineralization. There are signs that what they are looking for is nearby.
Yes, I think the reason
it's a question of time, isn't it?
I think the thing is, right, when you put out a result like that, like I said, you said we said right at the start of this, I've brought this information a lot of people didn't know about, and they've been encapsulated by it. It's great to see, and but obviously when you see results like that, the first thing that comes to people's mind is the word duster, and that comes from oil. If you drill an oil well and you don't get any oil, it's a duster, right? It's kind of the same thing with mining. You drill something, you don't get any gold or copper or whatever you're exploring for, it's duster. But it's not as simple as that. It really isn't as simple as that, because the pathfinder, normally what happens in an exploration program is you don't find the center straight away. You'd be incredible luck. Normally you drill a magnetic anomaly or a gravity anomaly, and depending on your seismic model or whatever your velocity model, all that stuff, you're going to be off by a little bit potentially. So normally you don't get it perfect straight away. But the pathfinder elements are crucial because the fact that they're there, like you say, it's signs of mineralizations for a start. But when you use pathfinders, you can narrow down to where the ore deposit is. There's a lot of research in this area. The only problem is sometimes mining companies are not very quick to use new methods. I've learned recently, so they like to use a lot of stuff that's kind of been around for like 20 or so years. And there's a lot of new research that's been published in the last decade of people using certain minerals and whole rock geochem to essentially narrow down and vector towards where the ore body is. And it's been used very successfully in the porphyry copper environment, and it's been used successfully. I think I showed a really good example of where it can be used in Canada.
Yep.
And I feel like if Greatland do this and approach, and I think they will find something at Scallywag. Now, that I don't think anybody was particularly happy with that group. I think I was very honest in my live as well. I said I think I used the word they're crap. Like it wasn't a good set of results. But like I said at the time, the market overreaction at that point was just. I think for a lot of people, they were, in a way, when you set a high benchmark, it's a bit like when you're if you're top of the Premier League, what do you want to do? You want to bring them down, right? Everyone wants to beat you. Greatland has set such a ridiculous benchmark in the AIM market. I think everyone was just waiting to something that they could use to say, it's a load of rubbish or whatever. And that's why it reacted in the way it did. And obviously that caused a bit of panic selling. But when, I think Scuddy is kind of the risk element to the Greatland Gold, but it's never been the main event. It's never been the star of the show, really. The star of the show has always been Havieron, and as we've seen today, more great results. And this is the thing that's been driving the price up. And now, thanks to Scuddy's bad results and some, I would say, overreaction, you're essentially getting a discount. You're getting a discount to a very de-risked gold project, essentially. And if
Academy is asking. Sorry, I'm just. I know. No, just. I was going to cut in on what you were saying there. Academy is asking, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are we with these results?
This is solid 8 out of 10, because it's just basically confirming what we've already previously reported. It's adding extra weight to what they will eventually publish as an updated mineral resource estimate. The only thing, I'll be honest, that's a little bit I would love to have seen. I think I'm a bit with you. I want to see kind of how wide the mineralization is. I want to see more done kind of in and around the eastern breccia, and outwards now.
Hydro says, actually, it sounds like they've been quite hampered by the weather during this round of results. Would limit the drilling in difficult to access zones outside the main oval. So the Eastern Breccia would come into that, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because that would just be all very sandy desert. But also dates it all around late November and December, when the heavy rain showed up in the satellite pictures. That suggests a much quicker turnaround on drill results than my immediate thought. So where are the scanning results? Yeah, we don't know about labs on that one, so there could be different labs. I don't know if Newcrest used a different lab to Grit and Gold. I'm sure other people would know more than that than I do.
Yeah, I think another thing with the Scuddy thing, I think it was so heavily hyped. You know, everybody was expecting it to be good, and a lot of delays, wasn't there? We all knew the labs were busy, and everybody. I think there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, they can't be bad. They would have released it now." Well, that would imply they had the results. They didn't have the results for ages, and they released them as soon as they had them. So, I feel like I've said before with the Scuddy ones, when they include the next set, the old set that they said that they were still awaiting, I don't expect them to be that great. And I feel like the market should have priced that in. So now if we get anything decent from Scallywag, that should provide a nice boost. It's kind of saying, well, we don't really expect anything from Scallywag now. It's rubbish. It doesn't have anything. So, you know, what's better than beating the market expectation with a nice drill result from there. So, but yeah, just obviously with weather, if it clears up, hopefully they can test this Eastern Breccia. And what I'm so keen on is, I think what hurts my ears, I remember you discussing this in the previous one that you did of this, is when they announced that they've got other targets within the Havieron joint venture area that they're exploring, and obviously that's not on this map. That's going to be outside of this area, and I'm really excited to see what they do with that in the coming months, really.
I've just been sent a Tom the Bomb. Yes, Tom the Bomb. He has posted a comparison images where I was comparison, and you know the black line they drew to show where the MRE was.
Yeah.
Well, they're now drilling outside of the MRE zone to the southwest. And had 122 appears to have returned a 9.7 grams per ton lump. That's only in 15 meters, but at 500 meters. So there's every possibility that we're going outside the sulfide zone to the southwest.
Okay, that's interesting. I remember. I don't know if they said anything about that in the previous announcements.
Could that be your outside the circle? Because I mean, that's very much outside the circle.
Yeah, possible.
Because it definitely wasn't in the circle in the last results. I'm just looking at that now on my other screen, and it's in fact. Let's just completely break this and switch over to the desktop so that people can see. So if I just do that.
Oh, I've completely turned us off. So anyway, I will go back to that because we know
this audio part works. So sorry about that if I cut off my sound, but hopefully you can see what we were talking about there in terms of going outside the southwest, and we are outside the zone. So that's exciting. That right there, that's exciting, and that's where they're drilling into. They're I reckon if you was to overlay that on Google Maps and look at the mine plan, they're going to go straight into that and find that and whip that away early doors.
Yeah, probably. No, this is the thing. I'm very pleased with what the way that this is progressing. I've yet to see, like I said, I've not seen any. I continue to see no negatives here, which is always good.
shall we? I've got a request. Someone is desperate to come into this conversation and talk to us both. Who's desperate to talk about it? Shall we bring Stu in?
Yeah, you can. No problems.
Let's. In fact, producer, you should be able to share the link with him from above for this Skype chat. If you want to do that in private, that'd probably be the easiest way to bring him into the conversation. Even if we just grab his audio. Please feel free to do that, producer. I don't know if the producer wants to be named or not. Everyone might even know who the producer is, but I haven't got a clue. So we'll just do that. Cams. Transition over.
So, this is the point where I really should have written some of those questions down that I was thinking about. I walked the dog earlier. I've got a dog. And it's rained for most of the day, bit of a storm coming through my part of the British Isles at the moment. And it was dry. And I'd got probably the furthest point away from home that I was ever going to get. And the heavens opened and the roads were flooded within the space of about 2 minutes.
Which was rather quite annoying. I got absolutely soaked. But while I was out there, I was thinking of all these questions that I could ask you. Producer's being funny talking about the echo that I keep. Every time I switch cameras, I keep killing the sound and having an echo. And he's now again. Yeah, very good. Thanks for the distraction. So I had some questions I wanted to ask. And then when we look at Javieron and those sand dunes, how would they have formed? Like, what would have caused that ripple effect? Would that have been underwater at some point? Is that even possible?
Sand dunes. Oh, the stuff. Oh, so
like the up and downy bits that are actually on the surface.
That looks like probably wind actions probably form those.
Okay.
More of a, I haven't really looked at any detail, but when you form sand dunes, it's normally a wind feature, and then you normally have something kind of resistant, which you can blow up the sand along to form like your dune. But then, normally with ripples, you get it's either going to be wind action or wave action. But I don't think it's wave action. This it's right on the surface, so I'd expect it to be wind.
Sorry, that was a message from the wife who's just off to bed. So I don't know if we've got Stu in here yet. Stu, are you here? Earth calling Stu. Are you here? It doesn't sound like he's here. Okay. So what do you do, Jamie, when you're not doing geology or talking to people on internet chat boards? Do you surf? Do you bowl? Do you PlayStation 5? What games are you on PlayStation 5 at the moment?
Right, so I'm a big gamer. I've got two best friends from school that I pretty much game with every day. If not every day, certainly every other day. So luckily I've got a PS5 now. That's rarer than the gold we're exploring. I got lucky because a friend of mine bought a laptop, so he sold me his. But oh my god, I'll quickly tell you the story of this because I actually got one on pre-order and it got stolen. It got stolen at the back, and I was livid.
No.
Yeah, so I had some nightmares with it, but luckily I got one now. If I'm not playing, I'll get on to which games actually. Before I go on to other hobbies, but I play. Obviously, I'm a massive football fan, so FIFA's obviously on the table. But recently, been playing because the new PS5 comes with like a basic pre-selection of games, and there's a couple on there that I've never played before. So Mortal Kombat was one I've been playing a bit of.
Classic.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla I've got installed, yet to start it up, but Assassin's Creed games. What else have I recently done? Oh, just before I got rid of my PS5's still here, but just before I moved on, I played Final Fantasy VII, the remake, and that was absolutely outstanding. Loved that game. I play a lot of different stuff. There's a game where we all play at the moment. It's well, not at the moment. We've been playing it for a while, but it's called Smite. It's like League of Legends, but with like Greek and Roman gods and stuff like that. So it's a massive online battle thing. It's completely multiplayer. We enjoy it most of the time.
Very good.
So yeah, as I said, big football fan. Unfortunately, an Arsenal fan. I'm a massive Arsenal fan because I am originally from North London.
Okay, fair play.
With my local team. Luckily, when I was really young, it was the golden years. I had the Invincibles to cheer on, and now it's a shit. So
I know, right? No comment. I've got a little quote here from Paddy. Javier, on infill drilling to support delivery of. It all moved again.
Good evening, gents.
Oh, just bear with me a second there, sir. Just one moment. Javier, on infill drilling to support delivery of an indicated mineral resource in the southeast crescent zone and adjacent breccia zones has been completed. I assume, says Paddy, that this now means that they will be concentrating on growth drilling going forward, which is very cool. The other thing I wanted to comment on is that, he says, finding the message, we have now completed a few thousand meters. No, I've lost the message. I don't know if the producer can find it again for me. Stuart, you are just on audio at the moment, but good evening, sir. How are you?
That's all right. Good evening, gents. Magic, nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you, Stuart, man.
How's things going?
Good. I'm very happy. I'm trying to get on with my my PhD as best I can.
Oh, I hear you. After 5 years of knuckling down with GGP, I think I've had to take a bit of a break the last little while. After Scallywag and all the build up over Christmas, and I was spending an exorbitant amount of time and effort and energy, and the funny part was I was just sitting on my hands, so there wasn't actually that much reason to spend the amount of time. It's not like I was trading and needed to react. Sorry I've been away from the chat boards and whatnot. I've got a newborn baby and a 3-year-old, which has been testing during lockdown, to say the least. But what a great set of results. Sorry, I said to Bottle I couldn't make it because I've got a sick 3-year-old, so I was pretty sure that I might not be able to, so I don't want to let anyone down. But what a great set of results again. Not unexpected. But I laugh because myself and Paddy and a few of the older guys on the LSE board. I remember when Havarian first started, and we were waiting for second set of results and third set of results. And we kind of had this joke about if Carlsberg did results, we're 12, 13 sets. I lose count at the moment, but I certainly remember at 2 and 3, one of the biggest things we kept hoping for, wishing for, was to be open at depth. To be open at depth and to be open in any direction, because of course then it was just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 holes. So to have come this far, to be on the 13th, 14th, correct me if I'm wrong, set, and just still to not only see us to be open, but to see us reopen, which I think we did in the last set of results, to reopen areas, to see the stuff Tom and Hydro have just highlighted, intersections outside of the sulfide, which do one of two things. They either extend the sulfide zone, which is fantastic, or they give us a high-grade breccia zone, equally fantastic. As you say, Liam, they're going straight in there. So that's near term. That's what makes this business model. It's what makes everything work. But before I forget, that I'm blown away by the copper. Each time we sit here and we watch these results, and I've come to love them. I've come to know exactly what to expect, what to hope for, which is why I was a bit scared when the Scallywag results came out, and I'll be the first to admit I was very lucky. I got the results on my phone. I sold immediately at 33p and got out quickly and managed to rebuy a bit lower. It was the first time I'd done that after 5 years in GGP. Every other time I watched everyone else sell on the news, and I did nothing about it. This time I had an alert and was able to take some action, and then obviously buy and lower. But I think that from sitting here and looking at all the 13 results, all the 5 years I've been in the share, we haven't had these sort of copper results. I'll be surprised if we don't have a bit of emphasis on that area by Sean Day tomorrow.
I would expect
It'll be the first time he's given us a proper report, or any report really, on our own results. So it'll be interesting to see his style in comparison to Gervais. But when I look at those copper results, for those out there wondering what I mean, what's good, what's bad, Magic's not letting you know exactly what can be expected, obviously on the gold side, and I think with these gold things, with all of these results, there's a great article out there. I first read it when I first got into GGP, but it still holds truth, and it's all about how to work out and how to decipher what a good gold grade is, because really that's what this is all about, and it's all about gram meters. And we discussed this last time, I think, on the podcast, but for anyone who didn't watch it last time, it's really important. Gram meters is the grams per ton times by the meters of the intercept. So when you're looking here, when you're trying to decipher these results, and sorry, I don't mean to be patronizing, because I know Magic and Liam went through this already, but for the newer people, when you are looking at a drill result, the top number on the appendix that's going to give you all the results, that top number is the overall intercept, and it represents a weighted average. And for anyone who doesn't know, a weighted average is just a mean. It's all of the different grams and gram meters, the individual meters or half meters in this case, pulled together, and a mean given. And so those gram meters is what's important.
Yeah, okay, I hit the microphone. And I must apologise to everyone that's watching, because your camera is now on the screen. But for some reason, and I have absolutely no idea, the size of the frames of the cameras keep moving. So one moment you're really quite small on the screen, and then all of a sudden you blow up huge, and we get this massive blown up picture of you. So I have no idea. I'm not even touching it. I'm not even looking at it. So I keep trying to put it back, but it keeps moving. I have no idea. I'm just trying to leave it alone and hopefully not breaking it. So, but yeah, no, it's good to see you again, mate. It's good to see that.
Likewise. It's been good to take a break. I won't lie. Those who know me and would have seen me on LSE board for the first 2.5-3 years of my 5-year journey with GGP. I was prolific. I was probably in the top posters, and I was there all the time. And it was so, because of the amounts at the time of money I had invested in GGP. It needed to take that amount of time. And yeah, I think it sort of came to a bit of a head for me over Christmas, on a personal level. Throughout lockdown, working from home, having 2 kids, new baby, let's just say my mental health wasn't particularly good, and great first world problem to have. Amounts of money had become a problem for me personally. Being in life-changing position, and having not cashed out since half a penny, and obviously a lot of top-ups ever since. I've turned something for myself and my daughters into a life-changing position, and regardless of my faith, my unwavering faith, remaining all in something, for at some point you're going to have to sell. At some point you're going to have to make a decision, and I did it scallywag, and then obviously started buying back in for even more shares than I had before, and thought I was a god and a king, and thought this was great. Finally, I'd been the one to benefit when everyone else had always sold on the news, and I'd sat holding on for dear life through the storm, which by the way was by far the best strategy. I know many of my friends who I brought into GGP from 2p, 3p, 4p, 5p, and they've all tried to do the same and sell on the news and buy back lower. And over time, over these last 5 years, I've made far more money, and by human beliefs and human behavior in the stock markets, the crypto market, anything where you're investing your own money is personified when it comes to human behavior and reactions. And if I could give anyone who's new watching one tip, and it's the tip you would never think And it would literally save you or make you thousands and thousands across the term of your life by not actually looking at charts or fundamentals or anything whatsoever. Do what you're doing right now, except do yourself one favor, make the opposite decision to every decision you make. The moment you think you need to buy tomorrow morning when the price is flying up 10%, sell some.
See, that's how we started the show. Me and Magic were talking at the start of the show about the fact that when we got in, and I think you said this, Magic, you were in and you bought, and then the price just went completely the opposite direction on top of you.
Yeah, and that, you know, that's my experience with AIM shares, and I think many people on the chat, many people who've experienced AIM as a market, you know, it's a cesspool. And it's a momentum-driven market where people chase rainbows, and they're not after 5% steady gains, good management, good company, strong fundamentals, strong macro backdrop. None of those things really matter. They've got their pocket money and they're throwing it in and out all over the place. And that's great if you want to be one. Whenever you're investing, speculating, trading, you need to put yourself in a box. And furthermore, you need to segment your own pot. You know, now I've learned after 5 years of hard slog and losing and ups and downs to keep a trading pot, and that's only been in this last 6 months. And wow, it's done wonders for my portfolio. You know, let's, for argument's sake, say I've got 100,000 GGP shares. You know, wait till good news, wait till it's a positive day, wait till there's an upcycle. Even though you don't want to sell, your body is telling you, no, great, we've had these wonderful results, don't sell anything. I only broke that cycle, as I say, 6 months ago. After 5 years of investing, was I able to realize what I've been told and what I've read from every investor magazine, every Warren Buffett quote, every bloody YouTuber. They all tell you the same thing. Actioning that within your own strategy is damn near impossible. And everybody gets emotionally involved in shares. I did with Serious Minerals, and it cost me dearly, and it taught me a good lesson that, frankly, I learned by a bit of luck, maybe. But I think the biggest thing I could say to anybody is test out your portfolio. If you haven't been someone who's taken profits when something you believe in has gone up, i.e. against what you want to do yourself a favor and do it. If you've got a £5,000 shareholding, sell 1,000. If you've got a £500 shareholding, watch your fees, but sell 100. What I'm saying is, when the feeling of having dry powder, the feeling of having money back for when something happens, like with GGP over this last while, where it totally draws back and is way oversold against all fundamentals. The same with gold. It's, you know, the macro, everything's been oversold. Anyone who's followed the macro story and understands it, and, you know, specifically knows that these are coming and sees this as a buy opportunity. But that's the stuff you read and hear about, isn't it? It's so difficult to do. It's so difficult to do. The buy opportunity is often quite easy. You know, if you're sitting here, you buy a dip, you know the fundamentals, you do your research, you listen to all the great guys on the chats. You should have a good enough idea to know that, you know, when this is coming down anywhere between 20 and 25p, it's a fucking crazy deal. And you should, if you have money and you do believe in gold as a store of value, you should be buying this, because it's unique in the world right now. It's unique in the world for the last 10 to 15 years, and it's been fast-tracked quicker than anything else that's remotely comparable. That's all against a backdrop of stores of value becoming more prominent than they were in the 70s, just about. So yeah, I think that's it's important. But tonight's set of results, going back to those guys, the copper's the true story of, you know, having watched this and seen these for 13
cents.
This
is going to be profit, isn't it? This is what the copper is. The copper is what makes Cadia. I don't know, it's not free, but you know, they're all in sustaining costs.
Well, you're right.
They're being paid to mine gold.
Their last result, it was free, wasn't it? It was a minus ISC, which is just, you know, absolutely. And look, there's going to be all sorts of factors. Whether or not we could get down to something like that, we don't need those semantics. What we do need to know is how much of an effect, as you say, it's going to have on that AISC, which really has the same effect as the grams per ton. All the width meters. It's that poignant in the calculation of profit it's your all-in sustaining cost. And so yeah, it's massive. I think that
when it comes to, sorry, I'm just going to jump in there. When it comes to this, and it's probably a question to you, Jamie. When it comes to the gold, obviously they take it out of the ground. The ore is going to get crushed, taken to Telfer. It's then processed, isn't it? And it's not just a question of finding the bits of gold, melting that, and then shipping it off to Perth. Is there not another process that it all has to go through before it can actually be refined into a gold bar? Do you know much about that?
No, I wouldn't say I know too much about like the refinement process. That's not something you get taught at geology undergrads. You kind of just learn about the rocks, and then after that, it's like it's not in your
somebody
remit.
else's problem. Somebody else's
engineers will know about that.
I know a
okay.
fair bit. I know a fair bit. No, I think most of the time it'll be concentrated into what they call sort of a gold door, a gold paste, essentially. You know, and taken off to the refineries, sold in bulk per weight on that paste value, that door value, and then refined and minted and so on by the refinery itself.
That's cool. I've got a couple of messages to catch up on. On the updated model, it looks like the purple sulfide zone is quite a lot thicker, especially in the southwest crescent zone, which is what we've identified. Well, no, we've not identified, but that's where we've been looking with the going outside of it. So it's very possible that they have more data on that area now. They've done the drilling. This is from Mr. Heddle himself, actually. Well, from our Mr. Heddle, not their Mr. Heddle. The lower grade yellow zone is thinner in the southwest crescent. Don't know how many leapfrog models work, but I guess I would say they've updated it with the new data from the southwest crescent, which I agree with. And Mr. Gall has finally finished work, which I believe, Stu, how's that working out for you, pal? How's work?
My I've only got 3 months' notice, but I gave them 6 months because it was the right thing to do. So yes, in 6 months' time. Well, I kind of said to them, I actually negotiated a pretty good deal. I said, look, I've got 3 months' notice. If I leave in 3 months, you're screwed, because I kind of the only person who does what I do. So I said, I'll give you 6 months' notice, but I'm not sure I want to leave yet. But I'll give you 6 months' notice. You can replace me. But at the end of the 6 months, I want a six-week paid sabbatical to decide whether I want to stay full-time or part-time. And I'll train my replacement in the next 6 months. And they agreed. Nice. This way I decide, it's a difficult thing to decide to retire. I'm 40 years old. It's ridiculous to even begin to believe that that's even possible for me. I kind of think I've got what they call sudden wealth syndrome. So I don't come from money. In fact, I was homeless on the streets here in the UK in 1999 when I flew over with the one-way air ticket from South Africa to pick fruit in Surrey. And I ended up in modern slavery picking tomatoes for 36p a crate. Needless to say, after 8 months homeless, I flew home to South Africa with some help from some family members, and I went to college, studied insurance, came back to the UK. I've worked my arse off ever since, got myself in a load of debt traveling, spent 8 years paying that debt off. At one point, £800 a month, I was paying that debt off. It was £13,000 at one point. It took me 8 years to get rid of that. And the moment I stopped that debt, I was able to save that 800,000 a month, and I started invested in AIM. I invested the £10,000 I had saved, which was my life, and I lost it all.
And that's the story, boys and girls. He lost it all after all that hard work. After all that,
£10,000, and my bonus for those 2 years turned into £2,000. Then I basically sold everything and consolidated into GGP, and then Newmont walked away, and my 2,000 went to 800. So yeah, 10,000 into 800, and that was over about a 3-month period. I read LSE boards, I followed Twitter, I did every bad mistake, every faux pas, as you mentioned, Magic. I bought every spike. I then sold out at every low. I just didn't have a clue. I chased comment to comment and blindly believed them like it was a roulette table. So it was only really when I'd lost that amount did I realize what I'd done, because it's numbers on a screen, isn't it? And you kind of sometimes get carried away with it. And I went chasing even more rainbows, and then it was was GGP. They walked away, and I actually at that stage had just, I think, been paid a bonus and doubled down on GGP at half a penny. So I was very lucky. But even then, it was only, I think at the time, it was a £750 buy for me, and it was a £450 buy for my daughter Ella, who was about 3 months at the time, I think. So not huge sums of money for most average sort of British people, for sure. I wouldn't have thought, as far as investing goes. Your charge is £13.95 on Hargreaves Lansdowne. That's 3% of 500 quid. So it really was, it was pure luck at that stage. It was, I'd done enough research to sell everything else and move to GGP, but when Newmont walked, I just basically threw the last bit of money I had, because there wasn't really anything else I could do. So there was no, there was no anything. I wasn't going, this is great value at half a penny. There was no anything. I'd just gone, Stu, it was like you'd had a great night at the casino and you'd got down to your last 100. Do you walk out with that 100 having lost 5,000? Or do you just fucking throw that 100 on one number just in case it comes up?
I've heard stories both ways. From Vegas, the stories I've heard from Vegas of people just like, one guy I know who he would lose on a regular basis, and every time he'd lost, he'd go play blackjack. And the minute he started playing blackjack, absolutely drunk out of his face, he would start doubling down and inevitably walk out with more money than he started with. But whenever he played blackjack, having not lost, he would always lose his money. Not quite sure how that works. Anyway, a news flash from Paddy. I've just got in from a late shift at work and have read through the results and a few of the comments here, here being LSE. The results are outstanding again as usual. The quality and size of the intercepts is no surprise to us, to Newcrest, but I believe Sandeep is as excited as ever about Javier on. Have people already forgotten his BMO presentation only the other week? I'm not sure what comments are being said over at LSE. Maybe people are a little bit negative on them. I, for one, am not. This report more concentrated on the infill of the southeast sulfide zone to allow the MRE to be converted to indicated to inferred, which is very important. Now they will concentrate on the growth program to get another inferred estimate, which will be included in the PFS. Onwards, upwards, while sitting on your hands, we have 30% of a monster deposit. Paddy. What do you think about that, Jamie?
Great
I agree with everything he says. I think I've obviously sat back and listened to a lot just now. It's very interesting. I want to kind of just touch up on your story a bit there, Stuart. I mean, I've certainly read stories of people losing it all in AIM. I think there's a number of different cases of that. But sometimes, when that happens, you learn a lot of lessons, don't you? There's a lot of people who in the financial crisis lost a lot and ended up they learn their lessons, they then change their strategy, and they end up doing really, really well.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of information. I think hopefully everyone who was listening to that and could put out little bits to kind of remind themselves of why they're doing this in the first place, which is to make money. And, you shouldn't get wedded to a stock. Like, as much as I love GGP, and you can't get too emotionally involved with things. And so whilst I'm holding and whilst I have my own strategy, I said it before on the Scallywag Live, I said everybody has their own strategy. People were selling, maybe some people needed the money, maybe people were cashing out big profits like you were doing. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has their own sort of situation. And so, but the point is, if you there's probably a lot of people who they kind of invest in something, they ride big wins, and they don't have a plan of when to sell. And I think you have to have a plan.
If you're going to... It's such a great point. It's such a great point, Magic. Have a strategy. Yeah. You've got to have a plan. And you know what? There's a good point with that is, don't be afraid to pivot your strategy. I got in at 2p originally, bought more at 2.30, then I bought a bulk at half a penny, then I bought loads at 1 penny, and then actually the bulk of my buying was 1.5 to 2 penny. And then I bought all the way up. My highest buy, by the way, was 36 pence. So I really have averaged up the entire way. So you do let your winners run for sure. But the thing is, originally I had a strategy and I thought 3p. I was going to sell my original stake and that was going to give me a free ride after all my buy-ins all over the place. 3p was going to give me a free ride, and at that stage I think I'd invested probably about £4,000 from my initial investments and losses and whatever else, which for me it was a significant amount of money. That my entire year's bonus, which was about 2,000 at the time, and what the dregs of my 10,000 life savings that was left from selling everything else out. As the years progressed, as your years will progress, anyone who's still listening, please remember that you are invested firstly in AIM, which is highly volatile, but secondly, you're invested in a very, very long-term sector. How I got invested in this, and I mentioned this on the last podcast, but it's poignant again to mention, I literally Googled what is the highest possible returns available on the stock market ever. I think I wrote in that exact sentence into Google, and it spat out a few articles that all had a similar mean, and they were biotech, if somebody finds a cure for cancer, finds a major drug that is used by pharmacies, those can do 100 times their value. And gold exploration, you're probably going to have to add cryptocurrency massively into that as a third in the last decade. But that's very important. Remember why you came here, because why I came here was to get crazy returns with the highest possible risk. What I didn't realize at the time was the length that is required for those returns in both of those sectors, whether it be biochemical, or three of them, biochemics, crypto, and gold exploration. It's at hyper speed, which anyone who's invested here knows, twice as fast, if not 4 times as fast as any other explorer globally really has gone. Sprott said it themselves. They haven't seen a major move this fast, and that doesn't happen for no reason. I think, but you've got to go back to the GGP should be something that if you weren't involved at half a P before we had a discovery hole, or directly after we had a discovery hole, which is usually when you should try and invest in gold exploration, directly after a discovery hole, not on the hype, not on scallywag, not on the hope. When they've hit 2 grams per ton over 100 meters, that's when you put your money in. You lose out on 20% profit, but believe me, 90% of the time you save yourself 50% of your money.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You hit the point there. It is almost impossible to time bottoms. Like when you invest in something and you get a discovery hole, you've done the drilling, you get a discovery hole. That's kind of your proof of concept, right? At that point, like you say, if it goes up 20% on that, you missed that part of the move. But if the next run is enormous, which is what has happened with Havieron, well, you wouldn't care about 20%.
No.
The key with the most successful investors I've seen is they capture part of the move.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I've done that. I got in way later than a lot of people have done in the LSE forums and stuff. And I've been pretty happy. Of course, I would have loved to have got in earlier. 4p, 3p, whatever it was. But with the increase, what you got to realize is that as the share price goes up, what you want to be seeing is, essentially more evidence that the price is justified, which is exactly what this company's done. The added drill results every single time justify the incremental increases that we have seen. You don't really get that company. Sometimes things go. I've had this recently with one of them, and it's one of those where if you don't get the results that the market expects, sometimes it just tanks, and that's the nature of the gold exploration sort of sector. But you have to back your investment to a certain point. If you're invested right now, because I reckon there's some people that have maybe bought in higher than this price right now and are maybe down.
Sure.
And what you have to kind of ask yourself is, you bought it at, let's say you bought it at 25, 26 pence, something like that, and you're down at the minute because you're down at 23 pence, and you're wondering whether or not you should sell or
There'll be a lot
whatever.
probably still hanging on from scallywag, I imagine. Maybe hoping for the second scallywag results that haven't come yet.
Yeah, and the thing is you have to ask yourself a question. You bought it at that price for a reason. You thought it was good value, right? Would you, right, with everything that's happened since that buy, would you buy them at this price? And if the answer is yeah, for me, this is kind of part of my strategy. If I'm 20% or more down on something, and I ask that question and I say, yes, I'd buy at that price, I will buy it. Of course I would, because I'm getting a better deal. So it's a justified reason to average down.
Yeah.
But if you're answering that question as no, you cut your loss. And you have to be able to live with that, even if it goes shooting up. Because that's just the way AIM and the stock market works. You're not going to be able to get it right all the time. But if you have a strategy like that, from what I've read in certain books and stuff like that, this is what a lot of the most successful people do. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm willing to follow that.
I think you've got to remember that if you're going to be successful, you're going to have to sell too early. You're going to have to do that. I was very lucky. Actually, we had to do something in our garden, and I managed to sell 200,000 shares at 37p. And I can tell you now, I've never wanted to not do something more in my entire life, because of course when we hit 37p, I was going, we're hitting 44, it's the next fifth extension, we're on our way, scally results, there's a leak. I had drank the Kool-Aid along with everybody else, even though I've been here 5 years, even though I still saw the hype for Black Hills and the exact same thing happened. This you must remember for anything you invested in. If anyone ever says that this time is different, then you have to remember one thing very clearly. Human psychology never changes. And when you're investing, you're part of what's a hive mind. You are part of what is a group human psychology. It never changes. The fundamentals may change, absolutely, but over that long trend period of time, that human psychology plays into it massively. And you know what? 5 years of investing, I can pat myself on the back now because I have withdrawn 80%. And I've still got my long-term holdings in GGP and in Argo and in KR1. But besides that, I'm pretty much out now, which is why I've been able to make the decision to potentially quit work. And if I can say, the biggest two things are: take a risk while you're young, a big risk while you're young. You can always make that money back. If you're gainfully employed, or you're someone like Magic who's studying to be gainfully employed and have a career ahead of you, if you have a good income ahead of you, you must take risk. Like I mentioned earlier, I was homeless here in 1999. I had a 2-year-old son in South Africa who I couldn't support, and nothing to offer him, no education, really, no university. And I've pulled that around by hard work, by studying, by getting a good job. But mostly, if I'm brutally honest, and it's hard to say this because I'd love to say I'm a really clever guy and I get finance and that's why I've been so successful. It actually comes down to one thing only. I took risk. I took a big risk, and I was willing to lose it all. I was willing to work a whole year and get a £2,000 bonus and put that all on what I typed into Google as what is the most risky, highest returns I can find. And then I whittled that down to 5 companies, invested in them, and GGP eventually became the one that I stayed in. But, essentially all I did was gamble. And then along the way, the very big thing that, Magic, you were talking about earlier, which made me suddenly tweak, was what to do about things when things are changing in the market. How do I explain this? You're almost always going to invest in something you don't understand, totally. You're going to invest however much research you've done, and I can guarantee out of the 100, 200 people still listening, that every single one of you will have bought this year already something that you totally don't understand. Off a Telegram comment, a YouTube comment, a Twitter comment, something you think you understand, something that was on your watch list that's gone up. Out of impulse, you would have bought something, and I don't think that's a problem. In fact, it's a strategy I've used over the last 2 years. You try and narrow down your Twitter following, narrow down your YouTube following to people you trust, people who are intelligent, people who have been successful and have a good track record. Try and ignore the noise so you don't follow people who are generally rampers and so on. And once you get that sort of following, I actually do take action on some of their tips without any fundamental knowledge. I actually do sit down and say, all right, I'm going to throw £1,000 at that, or 500 quid at that, or whatever your means is. And what that does is it gives me skin in the game to then go and do the research, because what invariably happens is you get spiked and you go down 10 or 20% and you think, shit, after 5 years, how have I bloody done this again? I've bought a spike. And you invariably go and do a bit of research. And there's nothing I've found in my investing career that has been more of a driver than gambling with my money on something I didn't quite understand and immediately watching it go down. That spurs me into research like nothing before. And I think it kind of works as a good strategy. Take a nibble of something that interests you on a tip, but a nibble, 100 quid, just get it showing in your portfolio. And that often has then spurred me to go, and it's easier, I find, then at that stage to do a bit of research and cut your losses straight away for next to no loss really, or to go, oh, I really like this. And invariably by the time you've then researched it, you had bought that little bit on a spike, you then researched it, the spikes then come back down, and invariably you get a good entry then with a bit of research. So try and just make your buy smaller. The first one. Sorry, Liam.
No, that's okay. We need to clarify. A question's come in from Academy. I'm just going to read this out as it is, and I think you will probably explain it the way I expect you to explain it. Stuart's just helped the share price drop prediction. Advertising holders to sell on a rise tomorrow. Why?
Why?
It's not what you meant, though, is it?
Of course, that's not what I meant. And I think this plays back into strategy. So there's two things here. We can talk about the GGP results we've received tonight, guys. They're fucking fantastic. And as I said, you need to focus on the copper. We're kind of expecting fantastic results. They're infill. They're in the pot. We've already drilled the shit out of. We expected them to average at 6 grams per ton and have the 100 meter intercepts. Those copper grades aren't expected. Over 1% we haven't seen before in that sort of widths. We just haven't seen it. So that's the one side to talk about. This is going to go up tomorrow. I think we are way oversold. I think fair price, if you're asking my opinion for what I think fair price is right, information we have right now, I think it's about 31 to 33p.
Yeah,
kind of in line with the broken note. I think you'll probably get a bit of sell pressure at 30p, like you often do in round numbers. That's where I think fair value is. So actually, do I think we're going to see a sell-off tomorrow? I actually don't. But then I've been wrong every single time we've had years in a row, and that does wear a little bit thin on you when every time you get so excited and think it's going to blast through and we're going to rocket everywhere. But there's one distinct difference. This is the only time in the last 13 results that I felt that we're massively undervalued, massively oversold. So if you want to ask, if I want to directly answer Academy's question, no. I think tomorrow we'll see between 10 and 20% close on the day.
Do you know something? Do you know what, though?
That's what I think. I think we'll be 26, 27 by the end of tomorrow. But I've been wrong every time. So, maybe this time isn't different. Maybe it never has been different. Maybe everyone's going to sell on news. But Academy, let me finish off on that question, because I'm loyal to GGP, but I'm even more loyal to other people like me years ago who are about to lose their 10 grand. It's those people, well done to everyone else who's made a shitload and a killing on GGP like me and lives. Well done to us. These podcasts, and the reason I'm involved in this sort of stuff, Liam and Magic, is I want to give back. I want people not to lose the first 10 grand I lost. I want people to hold on. I want people to trade the news. I want people to understand the cycles. I want people to do the fundamentals. I want people to understand. They've ended up in gold exploration, high risk on the AIM market. There's going to be 10 or 20% of the listeners who will be like me 5 years ago, about to lose a lot of money, because they would have read these results and they're going to buy at 8:08 tomorrow morning
Oh!
At the very peak of the market. And for those guys listening, there's just general stuff to think about. The good time to buy normally, get a quote at 8 in the morning. You might be the first little bugger who gets an unchanged share price and buy some. That's great. By the way, I bought every time from 3p upwards. I still made loads of money, but it felt pretty stupid a week later. Okay, it doesn't matter because I held those shares, and within 2 weeks to 3 weeks, we were way past that, and it didn't feel like I got spiked. So this is where strategy comes in. Do I suggest you sell out tomorrow? If you're somebody like me who was in at half a penny and you're looking to take profits and it spikes 20%, yeah, absolutely. If you've wanted to take some profits, take some at 26, 27 if it gets there in the morning. If you've bought in at 35p and were hoping for this to come back up a bit and are thinking of selling on a spike tomorrow, don't do it. Why did you buy in? You would have bought in knowing gold exploration is 3 to 5 years. It's actually 10 to 20 years if you really want to make money over a lifetime. It's the same as buying a piece of gold. It's something that should be kept hand down to your children or create a legacy. It all depends on strategy. If you're a trader or what you're doing, the best way, the way I've made life-changing money on this share and will continue to do, is by holding long. If you could catch something and catch a spike and be a trader, I guarantee you for the 3 times you make money on it, you'll lose money the other 3 times. And all of this effort and worry and risking your entire pot buying and selling will end up breaking you even. So that's my experience in 5 years of trying to time the market. It doesn't work. Go back to your Warren Buffett books. It's time in the market, That's all.
Speaking of Warren Buffett quotes, I'm just going to jump straight in there, Stu. Sorry. Could you please explain on your famous quote, "Diversification is enemy of making wealth"?
Okay.
But before you do that, actually, I'm going to jump in a second time. Ask me what the BBTL is going to be tomorrow morning. The BBTL tomorrow morning will be 32 pence flat.
Oh, hello.
That is where my trend line has us from last April.
That's
so from over a year ago. Tomorrow,
you've always been below where we've been. So interesting to hear you above again, tying into the narrative of way oversold, and we are way oversold. And I can actually
explained this.
I can give you a million reasons why we're way oversold. I'm one of them. I can give you my story, which I kind of just have, as to why we're way oversold. And there's a million different investors with a million different strategies. None of that should matter. You just need to pick out the fundamentals that apply to your own strategy, your own individual financial ability, your own entry and exit points. Not having a strategy is the worst thing you can possibly do for your own pot of money. That's what you should take away from things like this. Who cares really where the share price goes tomorrow? The only person who cares is the guy who bought in today, hoping to sell tomorrow morning. He's the guy who cares, and good luck to him. And I hope he makes a bit of profit. And I would probably suggest 10 minutes past 8 as the best time to sell out and the worst time to buy. I would suggest probably as the best time to buy, either immediately on open if you can catch that very first time, but usually not. Usually get no quote. The best time to buy on a day like tomorrow is probably to not buy, or to buy. I find generally an aim 11 o'clock. 10:30, 11 o'clock is generally an aim if you just took a mean across all shares, no fundamentals taken into account. Timing the market on a day, 11 o'clock is quite good. But so sorry, you asked a particular question there to start with. So
we do need to wrap.
Is the enemy of all wealth. So
yeah, we need to expand that. We also need to think about wrapping up because it is 10 past 11, and I've got kids to deal with first thing tomorrow morning. So
no, absolutely. Well, I'll try to be quick, but again, this depends on where you are. Magic Bottle. You guys are a bit younger than I am. You have probably your
I will take that as a compliment, sir. Thank you very much. I'm actually 2 years older.
I probably mean by
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
But you can continue to make money. You can take a big risk. I think when I said diversification is the enemy of wealth, you have to remember that what you read everywhere, every book, every Bloomberg, everything, these are the 1% to the 5% of society talking to you. These are the wealthy people. These are the people telling you how to maintain your wealth. That is very different. I don't know how many people who are in GGP already have wealth and want to start behaving like hedge fund managers and hedging and maintaining their wealth against, the horrible speculation and money printing and the horrible financial corrupt system we exist in. That is not how Magic or most people, I would imagine, who are involved in this share, we're not in that position. I must admit, I'm very lucky. I am now in that position for the first time in my life. It's only happened in the last 6 weeks. I am now a millionaire. I can now sit here and I can start being a hedge fund manager and try and maintain my wealth. But had I diversified at any point in the last 5 years, I would not have said wealth. That now allows me to be like a talking head on Bloomberg and tell you all how to invest your money. They're wrong, because they're the ones who have the money, and they're the ones who just need to grow it by 5% a year, because that pays them the most wonderful, lavish lifestyle and never takes anything away from their money. In fact, their money gets bigger and bigger as each year goes on, and they get to live. That's, if any of you are that well off, good luck to you, well done. But the rest of us, if you diversify, you dilute your knowledge, you dilute your research, you dilute your ability to focus, to laser focus on the fundamentals and to make the right decisions, and you gains. For me, if I was saying to anybody, like I do my 21-year-old son right now, if you want to get rich of investing, if you want to change your life of investing, then don't pick more than as Warren Buffett, I think, again said, if I said to you, you could only buy 15 shares throughout the course of your entire life, what 15 shares would those be? And I think when you're young, that should be, you should have those 15 shares, 10 shares, I think even 5 shares. 2 of them should be out and out gambles. The other 3 should maybe form a bit more of a stable base in an area of interest for you, an area that you're passionate about. If it's horse riding, whatever it is, an area that interests you, something that works in that business area. That's what I mean by diversification is the enemy of wealth creation. Diversification is the enemy of wealth creation. You can't take £100, buy 10 different stocks and hope to get rich. It doesn't happen. It won't happen. It will never, ever, ever happen.
Not unless you're on Trading 212, you can't.
That's all I mean. I think most people have been sold a lie from a financial educator view. They've been sold the dream of how to maintain your wealth with no risk, being a responsible, and that's shitty. Don't save your money in a bank. Don't diversify anything. Go all in with everything you fucking have at a young age, and you'll lose it probably 2 or 3 times, and at some point you'll hit it. When you hit it, walk away, get an education, and invest it wisely.
And I think that is probably a wonderful place to draw our conversation this evening to a conclusion, because my cup of tea has worked its way through my not so young bladder, and I need to yeah. So gentlemen, thank you both very much for stopping by this evening. I really appreciate both your insights. Stuart, it's great to see you again, my friend. Hopefully we'll see you again online sometime very soon.
Magic, thank you so much. I was listening to both of you for the entire time up until I joined, and I loved it. And thank God you had some time to talk when I wasn't talking over you. So that was
good. Good, man.
Magic, Jamie, I really appreciate you stopping by and taking us through things from your point of view. I think it's been really helpful this evening, and hopefully we'd love to at some point, if you're up for it, come back and join us again for another one.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, come on, Magic. Let's do a threesome every 6 weeks.
Yeah, I don't mind. The only threesomes I'm having at the moment. Yeah, so no, I'll be back. I'll hopefully get on the LSE board at some point, because I have been a bit absent as well. But yeah, it's been really nice chatting to guys.
Fantastic. I need to make sure that I shout out to the Hucknall Massive, because apparently they're still all tuned in, and also, and I'm quite proud to say this, the Bahamas are currently tuned in, everybody. Hello to the Bahamas. LSEO is out there, still working away very hard on his yacht. It must be a tough life.
So.
Yes. And thank you for the Freddos. Thank you for the Freddos, by the way. I have to say they were very well received by myself and my daughter. It was a bit of a, what the hell is this? Holy shit! Someone sent me chocolate in the post. Who sent me chocolate in the post? It doesn't say who it's from. And then we went about three days, and eventually my wife was like, "Isn't it from that GGP group you're on?" I was like, "Of course it is. I'm an idiot. I'm sitting here trying to think who would send me. I mean, who else would send me chocolate in the post? Why was I thinking it would?"
Yeah, it was off the back of a competition, and it was Lost Soul that sold those out to you and did their competition. So, gentlemen, thank you all very much. I need to give a massive thank you to our producer, who I don't know if he wants to be named or not. I have no idea. I'm never going to bother. I'm not going to do it this time around. But he's been keeping me going all night. He's been feeding me tidbits of information, telling me when the sound's gone, telling me when my cameras are jumping all over the show, telling me when I got echo, telling me just it's been a phenomenal service this evening, and I really, really hope he comes back next time, because without him, it wouldn't have been as good as it was. And I know there's lots of areas of improvement. So, but yep, from me and from these guys as well, thank you all very much. And we will speak to you in 6 weeks' time, maybe 7, because this is a 13-week quarter. We'll need to check that out, but we will see you very soon. And that's us. We're off the air. Thank you and good night.
Good night, all.
Yeah.